I would like to welcome everyone attending this webinar, wherever part of the world you may be. This webinar that we organized in celebration of the UPLB Museum of Natural History's 48th founding anniversary has a lineup of speakers from different parts of the globe, all of whom are involved in preserving natural history and in museum work. Titled Museums in Leading Transformations for Species Conservation, this webinar will delve into the innovative strategies and initiatives undertaken by museums worldwide to conserve biodiversity and efforts towards sustainable conservation practices. As we utilize this online platform, UPLB MNH is honored to have been able to bring you a distinguished panel of experts in this virtual space. From leading museums and conservation organizations who will share their insights and experiences. We hope everyone takes this opportunity to explore what more we can do as museum professionals, biodiversity advocates, conservationists, educators, researchers, and students in advocating for biodiversity and our own causes. Thank you very much and have a good day to everyone.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Peach, and I'm joining you from the UK, from the Royal Botanic Gardens Kew. Really pleased to be joining you today. Thanks so much for the invitation. I am the Conservation Partnerships Coordinator for Asia and Oceania for the Millennium Seed Bank Partnership. Today I'm going to speak a little bit about seed conservation and seed banking. I'll also tell you a little bit about the Millennium Seed Bank Partnership, and I'll be talking about its role in species conservation. In keeping with the theme of biodiversity in the digital age, I'll also describe some of the ways that we're incorporating new technologies into the programme. So just a brief introduction from me. I've worked at the MSB, or the Millennium Seed Bank, for 9 years now. For most of that time I worked on threatened and what we call exceptional species, all within the UK. And exceptional species are species which are considered challenging to conserve in standard seed bank conditions. Since July, I've taken cover for the role of Conservation Partnerships Coordinator, and I'm overseeing all the programmes and projects in the Asia-Oceania region. Some of you might be familiar with Kew's Gardens in London, and it's a well-known visitor attraction. It's well known for the spectacular gardens, the glass houses, like the Temperate House, which is in the photo here at the top, which is the world's largest Victorian glass house. But actually the largest department at Kew is its science department. So the site's home to a range of research facilities, a host of collections and experts. For example, the herbarium there holds over 7 million vouchers or pressed specimens. Millennium Seed Bank, which you can see in the lower photo here, is actually housed at Kew's sister site, Wakehurst, which is in Sussex. It's about a 2-hour drive away, and that's where all of the seed conservation takes place at Kew. So what is the Millennium Seed Bank? Well, we're a wild seed bank, which means that we work with wild seeds as opposed to crop seeds. We're actually the world's most diverse wild seed bank, so we hold more species than any other seed bank in the world. Sir David Attenborough, the broadcaster, described us as the world's most ambitious scientific conservation project, just due to the sheer number of collections that we have. We conserve seeds from across the world in this building, which was built in 2000, as the name suggests. But we've actually been banking seed on the site since the 1970s. This building was purpose-built for seed conservation. The upper floor has a public atrium in the centre, and this is encircled with laboratories where all the seed processing takes place. The centre photo looks like two pictures on top of each other, but shows the door to the underground seed vault, which is below the atrium. So this vault is flood-proof, radiation-proof, bomb-proof, and was built to last over 500 years. The final photo on the right shows all the seeds in storage and the shelving that we store them on. So each seed collection is put into an airtight container and then filed into these shelves. So the 40,000 species that we hold include species that are extinct in the wild, that are being used to future-proof our crops, and that may provide new medicinal compounds, among many others. With more than 2.4 billion living seeds, the MSB is providing opportunities for not just our generation, but for generations to come. And I'll show you a video now about exactly why we're doing this work. Ex situ conservation through seed banking provides an opportunity for action. The conserved seeds are both an insurance policy against threats to plants in situ, of which there are many at the moment, and also provides opportunities to use those plants in the future. I'll be giving you an example of how we've done this in a previous project at the end of the talk. It's also incredibly effective. For plants, seed banking allows huge amounts of genetic diversity to be stored in a very small space and relatively cheaply. The space, the cost, and the time it would take to store these collections as plants is considerable. As I mentioned, we have space for expansion at the Millennium Seed Bank, up to 8 more cold rooms of 50 meters squared. We estimate we can store 75% of the world's bankable plant species there. The technology can also be scaled depending on resources and need of the individuals using the seed banks. I'll just tell you a little bit at this point about the processing procedure that we use. It's based on really simple methods, and based on the principle that drying and freezing the seeds will increase their longevity. So there's a really general rule of thumb. For every decrease of 1% in seed moisture content, the life of the seed is thought to double, and then for every decrease of 5 degrees in storage temperature, the life of the seed is also expected to double. So seeds are dried in our dry room, which runs at 15% relative humidity, and they're kept there for at least 6 weeks after arrival. During this time they'll be cleaned, and any debris, any plant material, and any empty seed will be removed if possible. We use sieves of different sizes and a machine called an aspirator, and this works on the same principle as winnowing. So any full seed will be separated from any debris in an airflow. A A small sample of each collection is then x-rayed to assess the quality of the collection. So this will look at whether there's any empty or infested seeds, and also we can then think about how many full seed are going to be in the collection as a whole. The collection is then counted, and that's usually by counting 5 samples of 50 seed, and then weighing each of those samples and then multiplying out for the rest of the collection. And then finally, the seeds are banked in our -20 seed vaults, which I talked about earlier. So, as I said, this is an underground storage facility. And this facility can also be expanded. We recently did in 2018. We actually have space for 8 new storage areas within the bank. All seeds are kept in airtight containers to keep them dry, as the cold rooms aren't maintained at a particular relative humidity. So the majority of seeds can be kept in these conditions for certainly decades, and if not hundreds of years, without losing viability. And we've been really successful to date, which is great news for plants and people. So we have banked over 2.5 billion seeds, and that's in more than 100,000 collections. Those collections are from 190 different countries, and that includes more than 6,100 genera and more than 40,000 individual species. And we absolutely couldn't do this alone. This is the work of a partnership, and these are the Millennium Seed Bank partners from 2000 to 2020. Over the past 24 years, we have worked with 97 countries and territories to conserve their native flora. We work with a range of partner institutes with a range of expertise, and we have new partners joining almost every year. Seeds collected are usually stored in the country of origin, with a duplicate collection backed up at the MSB for long-term conservation. We enter into access and benefit sharing agreements with partners to ensure that we're meeting the requirements of the Nagoya Protocol. We have worked from the Arctic to Antarctica, in drylands and deserts to humid forests and wetlands, from sea level to 5,000 metres above sea level. However, in any one year, our activities are smaller than this, and we currently have active agreements with 42 partners from 29 countries and territories, and 33 funded projects across 27 countries and territories. On Asia, the MSB strategy for Asia is to prioritise seed collection in the biodiversity hotspots, which you can see here in light green, and the tropical forest wilderness areas, which you can see here on the island of New Guinea. There are currently no MSB partnerships operating in Japan, the Philippines, or Western Ghats and Sri Lanka. So just to summarise the partnership, Kew couldn't achieve all of this alone. And since 2000, we've worked with many different countries and territories to help to conserve their native flora. So we conserve wild species rather than crops. It's the vast majority of all plant diversity. And although we do work with crop wild relatives, 16% of the world's bankable species are now conserved at the Millennium Seed Bank, which is around 48,000 species. We offer backup seed banking as a security for any seed collections which are banked in country. All activities are entered into with prior and informed consent and under legal agreements. We provide training and technical support to our partners too. And we share news and stories from across the partnership in our Samara newsletter, which you are welcome to sign up to, or it's available on our website if you're interested. We share all our data and results on the data warehouse, which I'm going to be talking about in a second. And we also have a set of seed conservation standards, which we endeavour to work to and try to assist our partners to also work towards. As important as the seeds themselves is the data that comes with it. And as a partnership, not all the seeds are duplicated to the Millennium Seed Bank. Duplications may remain in a second seed bank in country or elsewhere. The partnership does collect the data, however, and this is currently in a database called the Data Warehouse. The data includes details about the collection and the collector, the wild population and taxonomy, but it's updated with storage, longevity and germination data as well. There's been a lot of updates in data management since the launch of the Data Warehouse, and we're now moving into a new phase of managing the seed collections data, and that's going to be the seed portal of online data, which handily built the acronym SeedPod. So SeedPod is going to be a one-stop shop for all of our seed-related data, and it's just the beginning of a 3-year project, which is starting now. So this will be accessible to you in the next couple of years. So the digitisation and the accessibility of our data is really important, but we're also going beyond that and trying to use some of these new technologies to improve our processes. So there's a number of machine learning and AI projects coming online at the moment. And this example is a project run by my colleague Alice Hudson, and she's using machine learning to improve orchid viability testing. So orchid seeds are notoriously difficult to work with. They're very small. They're actually called dust seed because each of the seeds that you can see on the right is very, very tiny, and together it just looks like dust. So this project aims to create an app which will take images of a orchid viability test, and a machine learning algorithm will be trained to isolate and classify each individual seed in the image as empty, viable or inviable. And we hope that this will save a lot of time in the processing of orchid seeds. Developments in digital communications has made it much more possible to create functioning networks amongst partners and to link partners with similar interests. So for example, we're currently launching the Spark network, which is actually an acronym, and it stands for Seed Preservation and Research Network. So the Spark network will bring together MSBP partners in the Asia Pacific region to share resources, to share knowledge, and to share expertise. So you can see the countries currently involved in the Spark network, coloured in green on this map. And those partners are spanning that region in Malaysia, Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, Australia, New Zealand and Fiji, and we hope to get more on board. I'm just going to finish now by talking you through a project that I was involved with previously, and that's the UK Threatened Flora project. I'm just going to tell you a bit about the project outcomes and how it supported the conservation of some of the UK's most threatened plants. So this project brought in a lot of collections, and 427 in total, and those collections represented 253 different taxa. They've nearly all been processed now, and the total number of seeds came to nearly 4 million. There were 103 individual collectors involved and 37 different donor organisations, and over 70 attendees took part in 5 seed collecting training days. One of the outputs of this project was to collect seeds from 50 taxa listed as vulnerable or higher on the GB Red List and collect them across their geographic range in the UK. We have really good representation of the UK's flora at the Millennium Seed Bank and have 97% of the bankable species conserved, but usually just as a single collection. So this project was aiming to maximise the genetic diversity conserved in the seed bank through multi-population sampling. So in this example, this is Polygonum maritimum. You can see our collecting strategy. We grouped historic records back to 2000 and aimed to collect from these grouped records with the aim of collecting from populations which will be genetically diverse from each other. So we did this with a range of taxa, including some endemic species to the UK, including an endemic rock rose, which grows only in the north of England. Another highlight was 2 Hieracium species, both regarded as extinct, which were rediscovered as part of this project. So the fantastic thing about working at Kew is that we have some fantastic colleagues in the horticultural department. And for this project, we teamed up with our colleagues in Hort, and we were able to create some propagation protocols for some of the most threatened flora in the UK. So some of these species have never been grown out before. So this was really interesting work. We carried out trials and produced these protocols for 12 species. So including Silene conica, Ajuga camipestris, Illiciebrum facilitatum, which you can see on the right there. And I think these are really nice outputs. We're hoping to roll this out across the Asia Pacific network as well. And these protocols are aimed at conservation practitioners, people who might be working in the area of restoration and who might want to be working with the seeds of some of these plants. And it just gives an overview of how to deal with the seeds, how to grow them, how to germinate them, how to propagate them, and also a bit of detail about the ex situ collections that we hold as well. And a really lovely outcome of this work was relating to Artemisia campestris, which is really restricted in the UK. It only grows in 1 county and it's restricted to about 4 sites. And there's a lot of work trying to get this plant reintroduced to areas that it was previously growing in. And this plant, we were able to create a propagation protocol, which is used straight away. The plants that were grown as part of the propagation protocol were also taken and reintroduced to the area. So it's a really positive outcome from the creation of the propagation protocols. Thank you so much for listening today. I'm sorry I can't join you for questions, but I'd be really happy to answer any questions following the talk, and I can be contacted on the email below. Please check out our websites if you'd like any more information about the Millennium Seed Bank or the Millennium Seed Bank Partnership, and please do visit if you're ever in the UK. Thank you very much.